have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock. I don't even have to watch a clock.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday. Welcome to Bold Moves with Mandy Bryce. I am the host, Mandy Bryce, and I am super excited to share another interview with you today. If you're new to the podcast, on Mondays I do interviews with people who have done inspiring things by stepping outside of their comfort zones, and this week is no exception. I chatted with Cassie Upton, who is one half of the duo behind the business, The Philip Marie, which is designed to help couples who want to go in business together who are already in business together figure out best practices on how to make that successful as business and stay happy in their marriage. She also has a background with a wedding business which makes globes and maps that are hand lettered and personalized, which sound absolutely amazing. Definitely have to go check those out. But anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this interview with Cassie for episode number 91. I can't believe we're in the 90s, so exciting. But anyway, without any more introduction, here is my interview with Cassie Upton of The Philip Marie and Blush Co. Hello, everyone. I am with Cassie Upton, who is our next guest on Bold Moves. Welcome to the show, Cassie.
Hi, thank you.
So glad to have you. Now, I know, first of all, I believe your husband was on a fishing trip recently, and he was going to potentially be on the podcast, and I know that's relevant. So I'd like to hear about that a little bit, as well as the story of your bold moves, because I know you're one half of a power couple, and that's important to your story. So let's hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my husband was going to come on. We actually were in Florida this past week in Clearwater, and then we went to Disney World as well. So he was out on a fishing boat.
That's amazing.
I got to stay in with the baby while they did a little bit of deep sea fishing. But we own our business, Philip Marie. So we are creating a community of husband and wife teams that want to start and run their businesses together. So we have our website, which is kind of a blog, kind of just like a collection of the things that we talk about out on social media and our live videos and things like that. And then we also have a podcast called Fearlessly Free, where we interview other husband and wife teams about starting and running their businesses together.
Super cool. So how long has the Philip Marie existed, and what were you doing before then?
So we just launched Philip Marie in March. Before that, we started my Etsy shop together, Blush Design Co. And earlier this year in January, I actually had our first child, our baby girl, Adelaide.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And then right after that, I took a business course with a lady that I really like, that like really gets me. And we were going through some things. And my Etsy shop, Blush Design Co., my husband and I started it together, but he was more like the behind the scenes and I was more on the front end. And we wanted to do something a little bit more involved. And we also realized we didn't know a whole lot of couples that were doing the same things as us, that were like pursuing business and pursuing just kind of bettering themselves and growing and learning like as a couple. So we wanted to create a community of husband and wife teams. And so we ended up kind of ditching Blush Design Co. and tried to combine the two and sell some of the things that I did on Etsy on Philip Marie. So we rebranded. We went through like a whole big rebrand in March. And then over the past couple of months, this is just something that happens in business. We realized they didn't really combine well. So we separated them back out again. But so that's where Philip Marie came from and why we started it. And they were together. Now they're separate again.
Okay. That's awesome. Is your husband, are you both at this full time then?
We are. So my husband quit his job 2 weeks ago.
Oh, this is new territory.
This
exciting.
Is brand new. We had to jump in both feet. He was at a job that he absolutely hated.
Sure.
So we were working on building these businesses together, and it just got to a point where he was like, I need to be all in or all out. Like, we can't keep going back and forth. And he
Sure.
was miserable. So we had to sit down and have that conversation of like, where do we want our life to go? What do we want life to look like? And talk about bigger picture stuff.
Sure.
And came down to the decision that he was gonna jump in with both feet and just absolutely quit. And we are very excited about it. I am the risk taker, and he is more of the like not
cautious?
risk taker. Yeah, like he's cautious and likes to do things traditionally. So sometimes I have to convince him a little bit to do the crazy stuff.
I'm sure having a job he despised helped motivate him, though, a little bit at least.
Yes, I think that's what helped him for sure make that decision. So it was a blessing in disguise.
Sure. So tell me a little bit about Blush Designs, since that's kind of your background. What do you sell on Blush Designs?
So I sell hand-lettered wedding decor. So actually globes and maps. I've designed a couple of different globes and maps that I like customize for people, hand-letter their names and their wedding date. And that was born out of my desire to be in the wedding industry.
Okay.
And I kind of dove into it to see, like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be a wedding planner? Do I want to have products? Do I want to come at it from a different angle and just kind of do a blog in an online space? And Blush Design Co. was born as an Etsy shop. And when it started, I made everything hand-lettered.
Yeah.
I didn't know a whole lot about business or kind of discovering a niche and coming at it from a smaller perspective. I came at it from a big perspective. So I made hand-lettered anything wedding. And over the last 2 years, I've kind of, it was a good thing. I think it was a good thing coming at it from a big perspective, because it allowed me to figure out what people wanted and what my audience wanted and what did well. And it was always the globes and the maps, which I love making so much. So that's what we've kind of boiled it down to, and we just do hand-lettered globes and maps now.
That's really cool. I'm going to have to take a look at your store, although I wish I would have had this 2 months ago, because I just got married 3 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I wish we would have connected earlier.
Maybe we'll do an anniversary globe or map or something.
Yeah. Well, they're great to have around the house anyway. Just customized with your names and your wedding date. They're so cute and so fun. I have them everywhere in my house. I love them so much.
I'm sure. That's really cool. So I'm curious, how long have you and your husband been together?
We have been together, gosh, I have to think about it. I think 9 years.
Okay.
Now, we got married 3 years ago.
Okay.
On June 28th. So our 3-year anniversary just passed. But we started, thank you. We started dating when I was 16 and he was 19. So we've been dating ever since and got married 3 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Awesome. And you must just really love if your focuses are, or your foci are wedding related products, and then now husband and wife business teams. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of what drives that? Yeah,
well, in the business course that I was talking about, the lady that gave it, she's so amazing. And she talked about things that you're drawn to and things that you're good at are part of what you're called to do and what you're called to be. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of took that and had some quiet time and really thought, who am I drawn to, and what am I good at, and what are we good at, since he was doing the business with me. And it was really, I love husband and wife teams like Chip and Joanna Gaines. Mm-hmm. We are absolutely obsessed with them. We watch all the Fixer Upper shows and think they're so cute and love that they work together. And then I followed a few bloggers that work together with their spouse as well.
Right.
And we were kind of talking about it, and I was like, we're really good at being in relationship with each other. We've been together a long time. I feel like we've kind of figured this out, and we love spending time together. We love working together. We love these couples that work together. So I think that's why it's all kind of centered around relationships and couples and things like that, is because it's just what we've always been drawn to and
Sure.
what we've always been kind of good at with each other.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's the business course you took? I'm curious.
It's actually a friend of mine that I met through church, and
Okay.
she's done several businesses in the past, and she just launched a business course at the beginning of the year. But
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's called eSchool,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if she's doing it anymore because she actually went back into a company that she worked with for a long time as well.
Sure.
She's a lot like me. She kind of jumps around and kind of just follows her heart and does
Yeah.
what she feels led to do, which is the best thing about her. So, but it was called eSchool.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to look into it, I can ask her for sure and see if she's still doing it or not.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So if a couple wants to work with you guys with Philip Marie, and I'm curious about the name too, but how does that work?
So right now we're just kind of building a community. So
Okay.
the best thing that they can do is listen to the podcast where we interview other husband and wife teams, or visit our website where we're, like I said, we're kind of like collecting everything there. You can reach out to us
Sure.
there, or reach out to us on social media. We do have a Facebook group that where we're gathering everybody.
Okay.
So when we kind of reach out to husband and wife teams and talk to them and ask them about their business, and then we kind of gather everyone in our group, because our vision for it was really to have a support system
Sure.
and to have a group of people that just kind of got the unique aspects of working with your spouse, because it's very much the same, but it's very much different. And I
Right.
feel like people weren't talking about it. Like it's not obvious when you work with your spouse all the time.
Right.
So it's not something that was talked about a lot, especially in the online space. So we reach out, or people will reach out to us, and we collect everybody in our Facebook group.
Very cool. So one thing that I'm curious about with husband and wife teams, and one of my favorite business mentors from afar, I've only met her a couple times, but she and her husband work together. And one thing that they share is that there's code words that they use if their kids are around, or if it's time to turn off the business and, be a couple without thinking about work. So I know that, like, if he's talking business and like their kids are there and she wants it to be family time and not business, she'll call him handsome. And I don't remember what he calls her, but that's their code of like nicely saying, we can't, I'm sure it could be easy to be business 100% of the time, especially if you're driven and you're an entrepreneur. And then also I know that like there have been times when I've had the same part-time job as a roommate. It's kind of like, okay, we're spending a lot of time together. Do you offer help or advice or anything with like setting boundaries, or is it more that your ideal client already just wants to be together all the time? I guess those are kind of two separate questions, but I'm curious.
Well, there has to be boundaries. I like that idea. I haven't heard that one yet. I like the idea of a code word, especially around the kids. That's a big thing with husband and wife teams. And I guess our community is like two tiers, I guess, because we're in community with husband and wife teams that have been doing it for a long time.
Right.
And so that's where we're kind of all learning from and getting information from them, and also just being like support for them. And then we have some couples that are just starting or haven't started or are only a year into it. So one of the things that we have learned from the couples that have been doing it a long time is the boundary thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you are together all the time, and it's great because you love it and you love each other and you love working together. Otherwise you wouldn't do it. But exactly what you said, you can have the tendency to be talking business 24/7.
Yeah.
And there's a point where you just need to let it go and just stop and have family time and have some time to relax. I tend to be the one, I think, in our relationship that's just always driving at something with the business. I'm like, I have this idea and I have this idea. We need to work on that. And my husband, PJ, he's always like, okay, Cassie, like, that's enough for today. Work is over. I think he said the other day, he was like, I think I want Sundays to be just family days. So we're kind of playing around with like different boundaries, especially because he's just now coming home full time.
Sure.
So we're kind of figuring out our boundaries, but that's a definite struggle with working with your spouse, and it's something that needs to happen. I don't think there's anyone that's like, oh, we love it. We're together all the time and we do business all the time and it's great.
No problems whatsoever.
Yeah, no boundaries. Who needs boundaries?
Well, if you want to check out Shalene, do you know who Shalene Johnson is?
I don't. I will check her out for
Okay,
sure.
so yes, it sounds like a similar beginning as you, where her husband was doing tons and tons of behind the scenes, and then finally, like, especially now that she's on Snapchat, you see Brett all the time, but they're Team Johnson, and she was the forefront of the brand primarily. She started out with, like, as a fitness instructor, and then has a bunch of workout DVDs with Beachbody, and then now she's a business coach, and then mentors, you know, entrepreneurs, has podcasts, and she's amazing. But that's where I heard the nickname Plan, and I'm like, that's brilliant.
That is brilliant. I'm going to share that. I'm going to seek her out and I'm going to share that with her. That's a great idea.
I love it. So where do you want this to eventually go with are you going to be doing like coaching, group coaching programs, or how is it going to work financially, I guess, moving forward?
Yes. So right now we're growing our community, and then moving forward, what we're really passionate about is helping other couples start a business that want to start a business together, and help them navigate and get set up and get going and learn how to set those boundaries and what the differences are between just the regular coaching programs of starting a business, and where we can kind of help and mentor when it comes to working with your significant other. And then one of our other big dreams is to have retreats.
Okay.
So that's something that we'll probably work on first, is having like kind of planning weekends where you kind of leave the kids behind if you have kids. It's always nice if you have kids to take a long weekend and leave them behind. And just kind of dive in. And we'd love to have couples, like I said, from every stage of their business, where we can all just kind of come together and strategize together and learn together in a secluded area, mountains or beach, always. So that's a big vision we have, is just to have a place for all of us to get together and learn from each other and strategize and grow.
Well, definitely I'm going to need to join your Facebook group, because my husband and I have talked about starting some things. So I'm definitely interested. So that's part of why, I mean, not just to share with the listeners, but I was selfishly also like, so I need to know a little bit about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great place, even though we don't have like any coaching or things in place like that yet. Like I said, the community is so that we can learn from each other. So it is a great place to be, because we're always sharing stuff that's working, stuff that's not working, boundaries, all kinds of things like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, and this, you said you jump around and follow your heart a lot. What would you say your purpose is, if you know? Or your purpose right now, because that's something that seems to change with people too, who are at least aware of their purpose or trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something that we all focus on a lot, and I kind of come at it from a different approach. If you are spiritual, and if you kind of come at things from that angle, I always think your purpose is more spiritual and involved with knowing who you are and who you can help and how you can make an effect on the world. Okay. And I think we always try to focus on purpose as what we do. Everybody's always like, what is my purpose? What do I do? Like, who am I? Who am I helping? And those are all great questions. But I think it matters less what you do and more who you are and how you do it. So I would say my purpose is to grow in relationship with my higher power, with God, as much as possible, and to love. That's all that I kind of feel like a purpose is. And then anything else that comes out of that is just your vehicle to spread that and to share that with other people. That's why I kind of jump around and follow my heart, and I'm okay with trying things and having them fail and trying again and finding something else, and because it's all just a vehicle to spread, to spread love is where it comes down to, and to spread joy and help other people.
I love that. I feel like that takes so much of the pressure off of, like you said, people looking for specifics, trying to figure out, like what should my career be? And that almost like you're supposed to pick one forever, and it
Yeah.
seems to fit perfectly too, that if you're like, okay, my job is to love, and then here you are with a wedding business and a business helping other couples, it seems to fit perfectly, even with the vehicle aspect of it.
I guess it does. I've never thought about that, but we kind of are in the business of love in general.
Completely, yeah.
So, so funny where that leads you when you kind of take the pressure off and just let it be. You naturally end up doing for work what you're drawn to and what you're gifted in. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, that's very convenient.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned is that, you don't mind failing and then trying again. Do you have any great failure stories or insight on how to be better at failing? Because that's something that I know I'm personally working on, is not letting failure get me down so much. And
Yeah. I think I have a lot of failure stories. I have failed a lot, and I think that's what has kind of taught me to do it well and to learn from it and to grow. I used to be terrified of failing.
Sure.
So I kind of learned very early when I had different jobs. I was the same way with my jobs when I wasn't in the entrepreneurial space. I would kind of bounce around and never felt like I quite fit in. And so I would run up against a lot of things and fail.
Sure.
Or I would try to get out of them and try to start businesses and fail as well. Because I think what a lot of people don't share, people who are successful and people who are doing it right, is there's been a lot of missteps on the way and a lot of trial and error. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to know that everyone's failing. That's what helped me a lot, is when people started talking about it and people started talking about their struggles, and you realize that, like, it's not just me. I'm not a horrible person. I'm not dumb. I'm not, like, it kind of takes it off of you personally and puts it into perspective that, like, hey, everybody has a hard time. Everybody fails. And as long as you're not failing at the same things over and over again, that's the key. That's the key. And that's when you know, like, okay, I'm going to take this failure and I'm going to learn from it. And why did I fail? And what happened? And how can I improve? So as long as you're taking them and continuing to move forward, it's okay. I think movement is a big deal. If you're failing and you're staying down, that's not good. And if you're failing at the same things over and over again, then you probably need to dig a little deeper and figure out, like, where that's coming from.
Very well said. I definitely agree, and just need to remind myself that sometimes, I guess.
Me too. It's hard because we don't want to fail. And especially if you do things somewhat publicly, like with business and entrepreneurship, you're kind of failing in front of everybody, and that's not fun.
And with social media, everything is public. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So I'm curious, kind of on the same note, what is the scariest thing you've ever done?
Oh, I think the scariest thing I've ever done, that's such a hard question for me to answer, because I feel like I just do things and then realize afterwards, like, that was really scary. Why did I do that? I think the scariest thing I've ever done was actually not related to business at all. Okay. It was traveling to China. Okay. My husband and I went to China this past October, and I was 27 weeks pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So that was really scary. I actually, a little bit about our story of our pregnancy and our journey there, I had trouble getting pregnant. Okay. And I wanted to get pregnant really bad, so I was going to the doctor, and I was on some medication to help me get pregnant. And the opportunity came up to go to China and serve in an orphanage in China. Okay. And my husband and I really, really wanted to do it. Someone actually reached out to me to teach an art class and help her develop the art curriculum and do that. So it was something we were really, really passionate about and really wanted to do. So we were like, okay, let's put off the pregnancy, just one more year,
Yeah.
and we'll start back on the medicine and try again. So I stopped my medicine like halfway through.
Yeah.
We agreed to the trip. We signed up. I started working on the art curriculum. Like everything was in motion. And then, surprise, I was pregnant.
Miracle
And
baby.
miracle baby. And I was like terrified. I was like, what do I do? I really want to go. I promised this group that I'm going to teach. Like it wasn't just like I was going to serve, I was going to teach. And
Right. Leadership role.
yes. So I did a lot of soul searching. I sat down. I spent a lot of time in prayer about it, and I talked to the leadership and asked, like, have people done this while they were pregnant? Has anyone been this crazy? And turns out there are other people just as crazy as I am.
I was waiting for you to be like, and they said no.
No, they said yes, which I think it helped make the decision, which is funny. She was like, don't let that be the reason why you go or don't go. Like, if you're comfortable, go. And if you're not, don't. So, but it did make me feel a little bit better that someone else had done it and they were okay. And so I talked to my doctors about it, and they were like, yeah, I mean, we can't guarantee that you won't have any complications. Like, obviously, if I had had any complications, I would not have gone at all.
Right.
So that's what I kind of came back to her, and I was like, I'm still in. I still want to go, but just know that, like, anything could happen at any time, and if something happens, I'm not going to go. So everything was great and everything was wonderful, and it's time to go. We're like packing, we're getting to the airport, and it wasn't until I was in the airport that I realized I kind of hoped that something had went wrong.
You're looking
because
for a way out.
like, I was like, holy crap, I am in an airport traveling to China with my big pregnant belly, and I am 27 weeks pregnant. I am crazy. So it was scary, and the plane ride out there was a little scary, but once I got there, it was 100% worth it, and it was so great, and the trip went so well, and the flight home went really well, and everything was perfect. So thankfully it worked out. That was a pretty scary moment for me, getting on the plane, just like thinking, just realizing, like I didn't realize until I was on the plane how crazy it was, but it was great, and it was so meant to be. So it ended up being wonderful.
How long was the trip?
It was 10 days.
Okay. So you're still just over 28 weeks when you came back. It wasn't like or something.
No, it was just 10 days, and I went right when I was at 27 weeks. So I was like 28 weeks when I got back. And the funniest thing was, in China, pregnant women like don't leave their houses. Like they literally like stay in their houses. So we had, of course, our Chinese guides, and here I am waddling around all of China with my big pregnant belly. So all the Chinese people were like, "Oh my goodness, why is she here?" So it was fun. It was a really fun trip.
That sounds like that would be an amazing reaction from everyone.
Yeah. I was like, yes, I know I'm crazy, but I'm meant to be here. I know I'm meant to be here.
I usually ask a follow-up question of, when you're scared, how do you then push through? But it seems like your answer might be just don't realize you're scared till after. Or you're already in a position where you can't really do much except for like forfeit your trip and leave the airport. But if you have any other tips for people for, facing fear, I'd love to hear them.
That kind of is my tip. My tip is to just do it, because otherwise, like, I don't know if I believe in any like mind tricks or like good ways to like overcome your fear, because you're gonna feel it, and like the trick is to feel it and do it anyway. Yeah. So that has kind of been my trick, is to like not think too much about it and just do it. And then that's usually when I feel the real fear, is when it's like almost too late. And truthfully, like, if I was really that concerned about it, I absolutely could have gotten off the plane. I could have left the airport. No one would have questioned it. It would have been fine. So I think knowing, like, understanding that you always have a choice is an important part of it. Because I think people feel like, when you're scared of something, it's easy for fear to tell you like, well, you have to do this now, or you have to do that, or you have to do it this way. And understanding and realizing you always have the choice is really important.
That's great. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic advice. Do you have any other advice you'd want to share just in general, life, business, love, anything you think that the listeners would benefit from that you could pass on?
It's so hard for me to think of advice for such a broad, like, right.
I like to think like maybe something impacted you at some point and you're like, when someone told me that, that was awesome and I think everyone should know, or anything like that.
Yeah, I actually do have something that's kind of been on my mind lately that I just absolutely love. One of the bloggers that I follow, she says it all the time. She always says, figure it out.
Okay.
And I think that kind of goes along with like the fear and the just do it and like you have to just make the decision and go for it.
Yeah.
Is just figure it out. Like if there's something that you want to do in life, something that you want to be, something that you want to have, you will always have opposition, inner opposition and outward opposition. Like somebody's going to tell you it's a bad idea, somebody's going to tell you you can't,
Right.
your own mind, your own fear is going to tell you that you can't. And my like advice is figure it out. Like you always can. There's
Right.
always a way. You just have to figure out if it's worth it. Like if you do really want to do it,
Hmm.
then you have to figure that out first. And then B, you have to just figure out how to get there because there's always a
I love that.
way.
So that one is from a blogger. I'm wondering if you have any books you would like to recommend.
Yes, my favorite books that I think everyone should read, whether you're in business or just for personal growth, are actually very old books. I
Okay.
don't know if people
I'm
are gonna.
seeing if I can guess them before you say
Yeah,
it.
you might be able to. They're classics. I mean, I think a lot of people do recommend them, but I haven't heard them recommended a lot recently. But Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and then Outwitting the Devil is like I'm obsessed with that one.
I've never heard of that one.
Oh, yes. Find
Okay.
Outwitting the Devil. Both of them you can actually listen to on YouTube the whole way
Okay.
through.
Hmm.
So you can buy them if you want to read the books, but you can listen to them all the way through on YouTube as well.
Is
Um,
Outwitting the Devil also Napoleon Hill?
yeah. hmm
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. He
I
wrote
feel like
both of
he's
them.
just known for Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah. I actually
Primarily
read
so.
he is, and Outwitting the Devil, he actually wasn't published until after he had died.
Okay.
Until way after he had died by the company, I think, or by, I don't know if his wife allowed somebody to read it or the company published it, but he didn't want to publish it when he was alive because he felt like it was too controversial.
Okay.
And I guess in the times that he was writing, it probably would have been very
Okay.
but
Well,
it's
now I'm
really good.
intrigued.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really about mindset, and it's about like kind of what we're talking about in this conversation. It's about fear and where it comes from, and it's Napoleon Hill actually having a conversation with the devil. So
Interesting.
it's really cool. He gets him to like tell him all his secrets and how he works and all that stuff, and it's really good.
That sounds fascinating. So are those your two, or do you have more?
Those are my two that I think are super
Okay.
important for everybody to read.
That's awesome. I love it. I love Think and Grow Rich. I try to read that at least once a year just to remind myself, but
Yeah.
I haven't checked the other one out and I will have to do that.
Yeah.
So, speaking of checking things out, if people want to find your businesses and you and your husband, where can we find you online, and what's the name of your podcast and your website and all that? What are those details? I'll put them in the show notes too, but in case anyone's driving or something and wants.
Yeah. So our podcast is called Fearlessly Free, and you can find that on iTunes. You can subscribe on iTunes, or we're on Google Play as well.
Okay.
And we will be putting it on Stitcher Radio as well, hopefully soon,
Okay.
and YouTube and all that. But you can also listen to it on our website. So our website is thephilipmarie.com,
Okay.
and we have the podcast, and you can listen to it straight from there. And then we also, like I said, have like videos and resources of things that we've discussed and talked about on the blog. or on social media. So we're really active on social media. We have our Facebook page, The Philip Marie, Instagram, The Philip Marie, and then I do have pages for Blush as well. So Blush Design Co. everywhere.
All right, fantastic. And I asked it earlier, but I think I have a habit of asking like 4 questions at once. Where did the name the Philip Marie come from?
I love the story of the name. So when we were talking about growing a community of husband and wife teams, I really like names as names of business.
Okay.
And so we were thinking like we need to find like 2 first names of like a power couple, but not an obvious one that it would be that like you couldn't use. Like we were thinking like kings and queens or dukes and duchesses and things like that. And so I started Googling just kings and queens and what they've done and everything like that. And of course, when you Google kings and queens, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip pop up first. Okay. And my husband, PJ, his first name is Philip.
Okay.
And he spells it with 1 L, the same as Prince Philip.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I was like, well, maybe we should like just use our names.
Yeah.
Because I really liked how Philip Marie sounded. So I started Googling. My middle name is Marie.
Okay.
So I started kind of Googling to see if there were any like kings and queens that were paired that were Philip Marie. And I was going to get really excited if there were, but I couldn't find any. So I think one of Queen Elizabeth's names is Mary. And I was like, oh, close enough. That's basically Marie, right? So we just thought it would be the perfect mix of masculine and feminine and the whole couple's husband and wife idea to have Philip Marie.
Okay, and with the in front of it, or is that just...
We just had to stick that in there for social media purposes.
Okay.
The business itself is Philip Marie, but funny enough, that name was taken on like all social media platforms. So we just put the in there. And since we're like a platform and a blog, I was like, yeah, it can totally be the Philip Marie because it just makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. It makes me think of like a boat. And I mean that in a compliment somehow. As much as that can be, like, I'm like, it kind of gives me like the idea of like a yacht. So
that is so funny because when we were in Florida last week and we were out on the boat and looking at all the big yachts, we were talking about how we're going to have our yacht one day. And PJ was like, and then it can be called the Philip Marie.
Yeah, see? Okay, so I'm glad that I'm crazy. That somehow is affirmation to me that was a normal thought.
No, that is a normal thought. I think that's a great thought. And I do take it as a compliment. I would love a boat. PJ always said if he had a boat when we were dating, his like cute thing that he would tell me all the time was that if he had a boat, he would name it the Cassandra Marie because my full name is Cassandra. We have a lot of names. I'm like talking about this and I'm like, my husband PJ, but his name is Philip and my middle name is Marie and I'm Cassie. My name is Cassandra. We've got a lot going on.
Which is absolutely fantastic. Sounds like you're having a great time.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my favorite question to always ask people, even before I had a podcast, and that is if 8-year-old Cassie Marie or Cassandra Marie could look into a crystal ball and see where you are today and what you've been doing and where you're kind of headed on a scale of 1 to 11, how excited would little you be to see where you are now?
Oh, that's such a cute question.
Thank you.
I don't know. Probably a good 8, 9. I think.
That's good.
Yeah. I'd give myself a good rating. I always feel like there's room for improvement. So I don't know if I think probably 8-year-old me would be like, oh my gosh, my life is so fun. That's so cool. But what's next?
I love it. That sounds like a classic entrepreneur.
Yes.
Type A driven. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time and everything you've shared. It's been great talking to you, and I'm really excited. Like I said, I think I'll be joining your group and see where it takes you and what's ahead.
Thank you. I'm so excited about that too. This is such a fun connection.
Yay! I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I think we have a very similar mindset in a lot of ways, so it was exciting to hear from somebody who kind of approaches life in a similar way that I do. Anyway, if you want to check out her designs or if you want to check out the Philip Marie, please check out the show notes at www.mandiem.com/episode 91, because this is episode number 91. And that is where you can see some of the images as well of different things that Cassie described, including her crazy trip to China with her big pregnant belly, which is such a great visual. Anyway, please stay tuned for Friday. I have a challenge from Cassie that's going to hopefully get you motivated and outside of your comfort zone and closer to your goals. If you know somebody who would be inspired by this or could use any of the messages that I try to purport on my podcast, please make sure you share this with as many people as possible. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss Friday's message. And of course, I would love some good reviews on iTunes. Additionally, if you know anyone else that you think would be a great guest on the show, or if you would like to be on a guest on the show, please head to mandiem.com/guest and fill out the form so that I have your contact information and all of your details, and we can schedule something together. Anyway, don't forget, stay tuned for Friday's challenge, and as always, be bold and have a sparkly day. Bye-bye.